So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ask YP Now show. This is a show focusing on positive living, your work life balance, living with passion, success in life and business, and most importantly, making the world a better place. And today we've got a special guest star. We've got Andrew here with us. So, Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know a bit about you? Yeah.
Thank you very much, YP. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's watching this. I'm a real passionate advocate of what you promote, YP, with looking for work-life balance. My story is really simple. I'm based in Leeds, in Yorkshire, in the UK. I've been here now for about 25 years. I moved here because I was just following the career path that was expected of me. So I did what my parents wanted me to. I went to university to do an engineering degree. I worked for Unilever and got a graduate trainee scheme with them. I worked with them for 9 years in various positions in engineering, then in sales. Then I changed company because I was offered more money and a better car. And I moved location, moved company, moved sector. I lost my whole network in Unilever and found a new network. I had to build a new network at the brewery I worked for. And at the age of 37, I suddenly thought, what on earth am I doing? I walked into the office. I had a load of people around me who were really keen on, what they were going to do when they retired and their pension and all the rest of it. And I was 37 and I thought, am I going to do this for the next 20 years and then have fun? So I decided to leave and I was off. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just decided I'd had enough of doing what I'd been doing. And since then, I've had a most wonderful time. So I helped a friend set up a web company. So my friend Jim Riley, if you're watching this, still really good friends now. We set up Easy Websites Limited together, which is a very successful web business. During setting that up, I needed to find a job so that we could fund the company. And I started working as a coach in Bradford, big city next to Leeds. And I was helping people in really poor communities to start businesses. And I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
Time as well, I joined BNI, which of course is how you and I are connected. And those two things came together magically for me in 2011 when I decided that coaching was what I wanted to do. And I left the web company. Jim and I are still really good friends, but I said, no, I'm going to go and set up as a coach. And I did it because I was in BNI. That gave me the confidence, the support network, and all my colleagues of course, in BNI said, yeah, go for it. And since then, I've had a fantastic time. I've been 11 years now self-employed as a coach. I still help people in poor communities to start businesses. Indeed, I've just in the last week got a new contract with Bradford Council to do what I did 10, 11 years ago, supporting a team of coaches as we go and try and help people start businesses across the city. I mainly now work with charities and with the National Health Service over here with a view to helping people make the most of the opportunity presented to them and helping charities make income from their activities. And I couldn't be happier. And here I am in my mid-50s, nearly, and I'm living my best life. And I'm really happy that I've managed to do that. Being self-employed, I've been working from home for a long time. I've seen my son grow up, and I've spent loads of time with him. And it's been a real privilege and a pleasure to get to where I am now. And so much of it happened by just saying, I've had enough of this career, this corporate ladder thing that everybody thought. It's the best thing I ever did was to jump off that.
Yeah, as they say, people who climb the corporate ladder, when they get to the top, if they ever get to the top, very often they realize that the ladder is leaning on the wrong wall, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
It's so true. And I admire all the people who do it. I have some really great friends who've done it and who have climbed the corporate ladder, got really, really successful, really, really senior. And I admire them for their dedication and their diligence. But for me, I was lucky enough to find a different path. And I think I'm genuinely happier and healthier than I would have been had I carried on in the corporate ladder, because it just wasn't for me.
The earlier part about your sharing about helping communities to start business and so on. Can you elaborate a bit about that? Because I definitely resonate with that part of your sharing. Yeah. Can you share a bit more about that? Yeah.
This is something I'm absolutely passionate about. Indeed, it's what started me off working for myself. Anybody can start a business. Absolutely anybody can start a business. The challenge so that people face to start a business, I think, is the help and support that they are given. Because the people who help and support new wannabe entrepreneurs have often never started a business. So there's this whole industry that's around creating a business plan and a cash flow forecast, going to the bank to borrow money to buy all the things that you've put in the cash flow forecast. There's people who will say, oh, well, you need an office, or you need a vehicle, you need a factory, and you don't need any of those things to start. What you need to get started is one customer who pays you for what you do or what you sell. Yeah. One customer who just pays you some money. So I've spent my career in coaching trying to help people to realize that it's that first very small step that makes you money that helps you start in business. And so many people, I get, I see people who are unfortunately given the advice that they need to, drop a great long wish list of all the things they need for their business, go and borrow that money, invest that money, and so on, write a business plan, do a marketing plan, invest in a website, etc., 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 and they don't have any money coming in. So they're setting themselves up with all this debt, and they've got no money coming in. And if they don't get that money in fast, then it's going to go horribly wrong. So I prefer to start the other way and say, what can you do with what you've already got? Whatever your service, whatever your skill, whatever your product, what difference does it make for people? And go and find those people that need that difference. And if you can, go and help them. If you help them, you will start building up a reputation for being helpful, and you'll start build a story in your network about what you do and who you help. And if you have enough of them, eventually one of them will pay you. You might have to help a few for nothing, but you're building up your reputation and your confidence.
That's right. Yeah.
Get to the point where you can say, no, hey, YP, if I'm going to do this for you, then this is my fee. And YP, if you can contact the people who I've done this for already, they'll tell you what a good job I'm going to do. And that's usually all you need for your customer to say, okay, fair enough. And to commission you for whatever piece of work is needed. So I was lucky enough to start as doing that in a paid position. Bradford Council employed some coaches like me. But when I carried on doing it for myself, it's something I really am very passionate about. We overcomplicate the business of starting businesses, and I think there's an opportunity to make it so much simpler.
Yeah, I think in this world, not only about starting business or business coaching or whatever, generally people make things more complicated than it is, because then people have to depend on them to get things done, right? So it becomes a whole industry itself, right? I can totally relate it with this, So, I was born in Penang, Malaysia, and we come from a relatively, I would say, lower middle income family. And my dad has always been telling me, YP, you got to work hard at school because you got to be able to go into the local university. I cannot afford to send you overseas, So that has been drummed into my head from very young. Work hard, work hard, work hard. And always people say about going overseas is expensive, until he met a friend, who told him how relatively cheap it was to go study in New Zealand. So when I started my studies, I did my university degree in New Zealand, in Christchurch. And that time it was very reasonable fees. But people don't want to tell you about reasonable fees. They want to make it sound so expensive and show off that they're able to send their children overseas, isn't it, right? So it was that one person that shared this important information, my dad, that allowed me to go to Christchurch and did my civil engineering degree. And I was remember that time, my dad telling me, I'm giving you enough money to survive for 3 months. And I remember on day 3 in landing in Christchurch, I was already working in a restaurant, being a kitchen hand, washing dishes. So I worked my way through college. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So with a bit of hard work and proper advice, definitely anybody can start a business. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to jump back to the title, of this evening show, or this morning, this afternoon, this evening show. It asked, ask why before you leap.
Yeah.
So why the title?
Well, so starting a business is an absolute classic example of this. You said earlier on about people finding complex solutions. I think whenever we're faced with a challenge, We live in this world where people are expected to do something about the challenge. Yeah. And when we think about taking action, it's usually the most complex, the most risky, the most expensive idea that comes to mind. So, and people do that for different reasons. So, for example, you rightly say, people will say about sending their children to the most expensive university because they think that's the best thing to do. And if they can afford it, they'll do it. But also they want everybody else to know that they can afford it. They want that, oh, they must be doing well. They can afford to send their children to Cambridge or Harvard or Yale. So it's about a huge amount of other people's perception on what you decide to do. And, we don't give ourselves enough time for just actually thinking about things before we take action. There's some really interesting stories in the newspapers over the weekend about, obviously the UK government has just collapsed and it's all horrible over here with what's happening in politics. And there was an advisor to the Prime Minister who was interviewed. He said, one of the things that nobody did in 10 Downing Street was they never took time to just think. There was always a desire to get a message out on social media, to be seen to be doing something, to be taking action. And we live in this world where it's expected. Journalists will say to politicians, what are you doing about this? And the politician could just step back and say, well, we're thinking about it. We don't have an answer yet. But if they do that, they get absolutely slaughtered by the press. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. Da, 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 da. So all this desire to do something absolutely permeates our culture. And yet there's a step we can all take before we do something, which is to think, okay, what do I want? Not what do I want to do, but what do I want? Can I actually describe it to myself? Can I think about this and say, okay, if I did do this, if I did take this step, what would I notice that would tell me that I had done the right thing?
Okay.
And sometimes it's difficult to think of your own perspective. So what would other people notice that would tell me that I'd done the right thing? So, for example, what would my partner say if I did this that would tell me that I'd done the right thing? What would my business colleagues say? What would my staff say? What would my customers, my clients say? But it works in personal life as well. What would my partner say? What would my children say? What would my parents say? Who is important to me in this thing I plan to do? And what would they say to me? What would I notice them saying to me that would tell me that this was the right thing to do? And if we spend some time exploring this first, the really good news is you can do this in conversation with a coach. My practice is solution-focused practice. There's loads of us around. Indeed, there's loads in Singapore where you and I are going to be meeting up later in the year. I'm going to be catching up with Debbie and Dave Hogan and Lillian Ing and a big team of people over there. But you can do this in conversation far more cheaply and far more quickly than actually doing all the stuff you want to do and then finding out that it wasn't quite what you wanted.
That's true. That's true. How many times, as a business owner, do people do something and then they go, oops, this is not what I wanted, or this is not the consequences that I was thinking about. Yeah.
And they can be big decisions. They can be big investments. They can be launches of new products. How many times have we seen businesses completely re-engineer themselves because they thought that what they were doing wasn't working, and then somebody else comes along and does what they were doing, does it better, and takes the market away.
True.
So there's loads and loads of stories out there. If you take mobile phones, for example, take Nokia, who used to be the dominant mobile phone company, now sell hardly any mobile phones and have moved away from that industry, and their business has now been sold and bought and sold. And meanwhile, Apple, who didn't even sell a smartphone until 2004, totally revolutionized the market for mobile phones, and they are now an essential part of everybody's life. So doing what you do, you don't have to rip it all up. You don't have to change it all. You can just think about, okay, what would others notice that would tell me that this change would be the right thing for me to do? And so spending some time on that. As you say, we often do things and then go, oh, that wasn't quite what I wanted. And then we do something else in the hope that will fix the fact that we've got, as opposed to just taking that time at the start and thinking about it first. And the really important thing, just to make the point again and summarize it, is to think about what you want and describe it okay? Not what do I want to do, okay? The doing bit comes after the description, because you can sense check whatever actions you propose, you can sense check against the description and say, well, if I take that action, how much of this description will I get?
Mm-hmm.
If you do it the other way around and take the action, you're then finding, well, what has it given me? And you're noticing what it's given you, but now you're saying, okay, what else do I need to do?
So Andrew, I love this idea about asking all these questions. So I'm sort of like a checklist guy, being predominantly left brain, being an engineer. I like things in systems and processes. Do you actually have a prescribed process or a checklist or a document that provides
Absolutely.
all these questions?
Absolutely, YP. This is all something I've learned. Again, this is another bonus of this decision I took in my late 30s. One of my first clients in Bradford was a guy called Greg Vinicum, and he's a big hero of mine. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but he and I became great friends. And Greg introduced me to a coaching methodology called solution-focused practice. In business, there's a fantastic book called The Solutions Focus. It's by Mark McErgo and Paul Z. Jackson. It's regularly referenced in coaching conversations. It's been used in lots and lots of big businesses, big organizations around the world. But if you look up solution-focused practice, it's a poorly named practice, but it's an interesting one because it actually codifies what I'm sharing with you today. And there are a lot of people who will follow a process with you that's been developed over the years. The solution-focused practice started in the 70s, and it's been developed and developed and developed that will help you to explore this.
Okay. So you can guess what's the next book I'm gonna put into my Kindle collection.
Well, I know you've kindly already bought mine. My second book, Make Life Simple, has a lot of my take on solution-focused practice in it, and is considered to be a solution-focused practice book. So, and it's in a more kind of self-help capacity. It was published at the height of the pandemic when I thought people might need the help.
Okay.
But yeah, Mark and Paul.
Sorry, Andrew, that was your second book. Is it Make Life Simple?
Make Life Simple, yeah.
So how many books have you actually written? I'm curious.
I've written 2.
Okay.
And I've got loads more that I'd like to write.
Okay. So can you share with us what are 2 books that you've written?
Yeah, sure. So
what they're all about. Yeah.
So the first one is called What's Your URP, and this is the book that's designed to help people start businesses on the method that I've just shared earlier in our conversation today. The idea of starting a business as it's presented at the moment is to think about the money first. So how much money are you going to make from this business? And it's kind of like the careers advice as well. So you did civil engineering, I did electrical engineering. I've got to be honest, I didn't understand a word of engineering in my degree. That's why I went to work for Unilever, because I thought they're probably as far away from electronic engineering as I can get. But I was following that, you must get a decent degree to get a decent job, etc. And we drill this into our kids. We say, you've got to get a good job so that you can earn money, and then you can have fun on weekends. It's like, well, have fun 7 days a week. My friend Rick Armstrong, I'm sure you know Rick as well. He's in BNI here with me in Yorkshire. Rick talks about the 7-day weekend. Why don't you have a 7-day weekend? If you're with people that you love, doing something that you love doing and making a difference every day, well, isn't that like a weekend? So I wrote this book to help people realize that they can find the thing they love to do and explore it and see if they can make a living doing it. So if you think about the thing that you love doing, the thing that you are passionate about, just think about this. Does it make a difference for somebody else when you do your thing? If so, who does it make a difference for? And is there a value to that difference? And if there is a value to that difference, great. Who needs that difference? And now we have a value, we have the makings of a source of income. Now, this might not turn into a global megacorp type business, but we have a means of making money, a means of making income from doing something that we love to do with people that we love to help, making a difference. So What's Your URP is all about that. And the idea of the URP is We talk again in business about a unique selling point, and the unique selling point has been developed over the years. Of course, the USP was originally an advertising construct to try and distinguish between two identical products. So, say 2 boxes of soap powder, for example. They both got soap powder in them. How, do you want to know the chemical formulae and how it interacts with the clothes? Well, no, you don't. So they came up with this idea of a description of what happened after you'd used the product. Okay. So that was about the consumer and the difference they would notice after they'd used the product. You see what with this? This sounds remarkably similar to what we've been talking about already.
Yeah.
But what's happened in small business support and startup business support is that instead of looking at the consumer and saying, well, what difference am I making for the consumer? And that's my USP. People have instead turned it inwards and said, well, what is it about me that makes me different from my competition? And I'm really sorry. But if you're a human being, you are not doing anything different from your competition, especially not something that couldn't be copied. Because even if you did come up with something unique, it'd be really easy for somebody else to copy it. So USP for small businesses doesn't exist. The URP for me is your unique referral point. And it's that thing about focusing on a very specific group of customers or consumers or clients and being the expert in helping them so that they will start referring you to other people like them.
Okay.
You do that, you have got a source of referrals from your network that is going to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And you will very quickly become an expert in that group of customers. I saw, I'm sure you were there as well, I'm sure, at Long Beach in 2017, Vern Harnish. The keynote speaker at the BNI conference.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I loved his stuff. And he talked about scaling businesses. And he talked about to achieve scale, you need 70% of 7% of your market. And I remember he gave IKEA as an example, and he said they do flat pack furniture. They don't do all types of furniture. They do flat pack furniture. And they have 70% of 7% of the global furniture market. And they're worth billions and billions of dollars. So we look at startup entrepreneurs and we expect them to find something unique, and they all want 100% of their market. They don't want to talk to their rivals because they see them as competition and so on. No, think about your customers and your consumers, the difference you make for them. Look outwards and you will find lots of business opportunity. Look inwards and try and do something about you that's different. You will really struggle. So that's the first book. And the second book then is all about your story and your network. It's all about your narrative and your network being a resource, which is the concept of social capital. And in business, we have social capital. Your reputation is actually something that you can manage if you've got the right stories in your network. And so Make Life Simple is all about how you can be aware of that, how you can use that, and various other things drawn from my solution focused practice, which will hopefully help people just to make life simple, just to avoid those complicated, risky, expensive decisions that get people into so much trouble, and to make clear, simple decisions instead, that will hopefully help them to have a happy and fulfilled life. Simple example with that, it was published at the height of the COVID pandemic. There was lots and lots of advice in the UK, certainly, about staying indoors and avoiding catching COVID. It's really difficult to avoid something. So you jump in a taxi at the airport and you say to the taxi driver, "Please take me away from here." What are they going to do? The first question they're going to ask is, "Well, sorry, but where do you want to go?" Yeah, "Please just take me away from here." Well, okay, so they'll just drive around and around and around and run up a big bill. So when we have something like COVID and people say, "Well, I don't want COVID," it's kind of like saying, "Well, I want to be away from here." So where do you want to be instead? It's a brilliant question. What do you want instead? Well, I want to be healthy. Okay, well, if you want to be healthy, you need to get some fresh air and some exercise. You need to eat well. You need to look after yourself as best as you possibly can. And yet the advice that we were all getting was stay at home, don't talk to people, avoid all social contact, etc., 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 which of course just led people to unhealthy behaviors. So Make Life Simple is all about working out what you want and making a plan to get it, and using some really, really useful tools to help you to make simple progress in your life.
Yeah, I like the positive direction and getting clarity of what we want. Most of the time, people say, "I don't want that," but they don't have the alternative, isn't it? Right? Well, guess
Yeah.
that's another book that I'm gonna get onto my Kindle. And the reason why I get most of my books in Kindle is because I'm starting. Previously, I've got a lot of books. Then I travel so much, and it's crazy trying to carry half a dozen books with me. So I started using Kindle, and I get everything into Kindle now. It's all in my phone. You don't even need a Kindle app for that. I mean, I get a Kindle for it. You just use the app. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good idea, especially when you're doing lots of traveling. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm one of those crazy people that sometimes read 2-3 books at the same time.
Huh?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It's good. I think it's good.
And yeah, so there's one thing that caught me with what you're sharing about helping charitable organization, helping people start up. I just like the new business model of charitable organizations, in the sense that in the old days, the typical model a charitable organization would do is they go around begging for money, because they need money to do whatever charity they do. But right now, and you did use the word, social entrepreneurship. Nowadays the charitable organizations are running businesses, but although it's not for profit, meaning that it's not for profit for an individual, but they make money as an organization to serve their cause, isn't it? Yeah. So can you share? I mean, are you aware or are you involved in anything like that, and share a little bit more about social entrepreneurship?
Well, I think maybe I've taken this a little bit too far, but in terms of helping people who have less than nothing to get something, I've found myself helping lots and lots of charities with the same process that I help startup businesses. So you're absolutely right. Charities have a mindset that is they do everything for their clients at no cost to their clients. So there's an expectation that everybody will do stuff for them at no cost to the charity because they're a charity. So they will go out and go to corporate, any corporate, for example, and say, "Hey, YP, you run a big company, you've got lots of money, and we're a charity. Can we have some of your money, please? And can we call it corporate social responsibility?" And big companies are getting begging letters every single day, to the point where they have standard template letters that they send back saying, "We're really sorry, but we can't possibly support everyone." And it's a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted effort. Charities make a difference for the people that they help, but those people are being helped by other agencies, other organizations. So if the charity starts thinking about, again, the wider network of people that they're helping, then maybe they can start noticing where they're making a difference. For example, schools, for doctors' surgeries, for your local authority, etc., etc., and having conversations about the difference that you're making in the terms that are important to them is really, really useful. So, for example, I helped a charity in Bradford called Step 2, run by a wonderful woman called Liz Robinson, and they work with children in schools, and they work on things around relationships and sexual health and teenage pregnancy and so on. And when I started working with them, the year before, this is 2015, the year before working with them, they had earned a very, very small amount of money from invoiced activity, and all the rest was fundraising. And we did some work with the team to help them see the difference they were making for the school. And what we found was that they were improving attendance and reducing disruption in class. And of course, those two things are inevitably going to help educational attainment and educational outcomes for the children. So they started measuring that. They started measuring that and getting the data from the school. And as the school started to notice that they were making this difference, so the school would start going to find funding to keep them going. And I saw this recently, and she told me that the charity is now 70% self-funded income from invoiced activity. That's in 6 years. So this can be done, and it's about thinking again about the difference you make. And of course, the second string is, because not every charity can do it that way, but every charity has an expertise. And especially on subjects which people don't generally want to talk about, because most charities are helping with societal challenges, aren't they? If you go to a corporate and talk about their productivity and health and well-being and looking after their staff, these are things which are really, really important to large organizations. And maybe you as a charity have specialist knowledge that you can share that will somehow help the managers and directors run a better business and have better, more motivated employees. So think about where you make a difference there and go and have a talk about that. Again, it's thinking about looking that way and thinking, what's in this for the person I'm talking to, rather than what's in this for me and my charity.
That's right.
Start for them, and then maybe they'll ask you about you. And that's the way I help charities. And I absolutely love helping charities. They're the bulk of my activity is helping charities. I must talk to 4 or 5 charities a week, and most of them I just help for free, and I just help them think about this. And of course, on the back of doing that, my reputation is built in my network. So my unique referral point is charities, and I get referrals to charities from loads and loads of people, and every so often I get paid for helping them.
We definitely got to do more one-to-ones, Andrew. I definitely resonate so well with what you just shared. Back in the Philippines, I got involved with some friends, in a particular social entrepreneurship. It's all about mental health, especially mental health in the workplace. And exactly like what you described, we are looking to be able to help companies do seminars, webinars for their senior management, their staff, on how to create a safe workplace, a safe mental health workplace where people feel valued, treasured, and social, what do you call it? Mental health challenges is not seen as a stigma, right? Yeah, and that would definitely help the bottom line of companies, right? Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Andrew, as we wrap up today's conversation, I would say, it's so enjoyable. Time really, flies when you're having fun. What would be your, parting advice or tips, to companies who want to start adopting some of the ideas that you shared, coming back especially to, ask why before they leap, as a company, what do they need to do before they embark on anything?
So at the moment, there's obviously incredibly challenging times in business. We have huge cost of living rises, and there's lots of things happening around the world that are going to be very challenging to everybody. The temptation is to do something new. The temptation is to think, right, there must be a big, impressive thing that we can do that will help us to overcome this challenging time. My specialism is really in small businesses. Small businesses don't have the resources to do big, complicated solutions. So they're not likely to go out and, merge with a rival in a multi-billion-dollar megacorp type exercise. But what you can do is to look at the clients you've already got and think, okay, what difference am I making for those clients? What difference am I making for those customers when they buy and use my product? And the secret to success for me is to find more people like those people and lead with the difference that you offer, because lots of people need help right now, and help is a change. If some people want some change, they need help with change. If things are just going along fine, they don't really need help, they're fine, but they need help when change is forced upon them, or they want to make change. That's when we can help people. So think about the people you've helped, think about what was happening in their lives that meant that they needed you, and think about the difference that they made, and that you made rather, when you helped them. And here's my real top tip. You can probably very easily answer the first question in terms of who you've helped recently, and you can probably really easily answer what was happening in their lives when you helped them. Can you answer the question, what difference did I make, or did we make for them? And a lot of people struggle with that. So here's a really good idea that I absolutely love doing. If you worked with somebody recently, they would, I'm sure, love to hear from you. Call them up and just say hello and say, hey, just wanted to catch up with you, see how things are going. You remember that project that we did a few months ago? What difference have you noticed since we did that project together? And ask them to give you, in their own words, the difference that they've noticed since you did that project or since they bought your product. And a couple of things will come from that conversation. The first is that they'll remember you because they might have, things, and they've probably forgotten about you. And they'll, oh yeah, it's good to hear from you. Yeah, actually, and they'll start telling you the things that they've noticed that are different. And you can make some notes and say, oh, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. And then you can use their words to go and find more people who might need that help. The other thing, though, is if they say, well, yeah, I was thinking about that. Wasn't quite what we expected. Or, you get some kind of middling kind of feedback. It's like, no problem. You're now in a position where you can do something about that. But okay, that's why I rang. I'm really glad that you've told me that. How about I come over and have a cup of coffee, or let's set up a Zoom and let's see if I can help, because obviously I want to make the difference that we were speaking about when we did this work. And they will absolutely love you for it, because it's the best possible customer service call, is to make sure that somebody is actually okay and has benefited from your product or from your help. So that would be my top tip. Focus on your clients that you've already got and the difference that you made for them. And if you're not sure of the difference that you made for them, get in touch and find out. And you will find some really nice conversations, and some really useful information will come from those.
Thank you, Andrew. That's really gold. And I've taken the liberty of putting your website on on the screen here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've appreciated what Andrew has been sharing. A lot of brilliant ideas, and the key thing about what Andrew shared is very actionable, isn't it? Right? You can just grab some of the things that he shared and put it into practice and start seeing a difference in your business and in your life, right? So this is Andrew's website. Feel free to get into his website to find out a bit more. And is there a contact detail in the website? Can they reach you through your website?
You can contact me through the website. You can download samples of both books. You can even book in direct with me. If you want to just book a coaching conversation, you can book in direct, and it'd be great to see you.
Okay, so fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. And my way of saying thank you to you is that I'm going to share with you a book. Okay, so I've written this book called 10 Proven Strategies to Work Less and More. You don't have to go to Amazon to get this book, although this is an Amazon bestseller. What I'm giving you is a link. Go to this link and you're able to download this book for free. And this is my way of saying thank you so much for joining us this morning, afternoon, or evening. And Andrew, shall we say bye-bye to everybody? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me as a guest, YP. It's great to see you. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this broadcast.
Yep, thank you.